Fundamentally, we're asking them three questions. Where am I? Where do I want to go? And how am I going to get there? That's it. In business, it's very similar. When you first start your business, if you don't have clarity around those three questions, then it's really difficult to develop a vision. And if you don't have a vision, then you don't have that lighthouse to look to that's that permanent fixture.
Welcome to the show. Today we've got the legendary, thought-leading, blue shirt coaching expert, Kyle Gillette. His processes help you have explosive growth in your business. We're excited to have him on the show. You are going to enjoy this one. Kyle, welcome to the show. You know, when you come up with blue collar coaching, to me, I love the name and I love the premise of it, right? It just kind of says, hey, this is for all of us, right? For those entrepreneurs that are out there that haven't hit Fortune 500 yet. Look, this is my first venture, my second venture. Maybe I'm just getting started and going down this path from what I'm great at. Like, I really love doing this work. Now I want to make a company out of it. But I don't know how to do it all quite yet. How did you get the idea to do that? And where does that go? What spurs you on with that?
Yeah, my upbringing is on a family farm in California, Central Valley, where I grew up on an orange farm. So it's in my blood to be an entrepreneur. It's in my blood to be in the blue collar world. It's in my blood to be on a quad or a dirt bike or messing around in the dirt. But I'm a people person. So I had to figure out how to combine the desire to be hands-on with a very, very strong desire and gift to be with people and serve people. And so over a few different business attempts, two of them failures and one of them a success, I found out that there's a common thread, and that is the people part. And after having to rebrand my business because of a monster mega Fortune 500 company, or Fortune probably 100 company, said, you can't use this brand, I fought them a little bit and said, okay, fine, I'm changing brands, and went to Blue Shirt and got to my roots. And Blue Shirt is about blue collar business owners and the mentality that blue collar people have. So maybe you don't run a blue collar business, but you have that mentality of where your handshake is your bond. You don't need contracts. Your word is your bond. Integrity matters. Character matters. You hire because you care about your people, not because they're a cog in the machine, right? So those are the people that I serve, and that's who I am as a character too.
I love that. The longer are the days when we could count on your word, right? When my word is my bond. There was a time when people died over that. When I said something, I did exactly that. It does not matter. And there's kind of been this like loose relationship to my word is my bond, right? There's this kind of, and I would almost venture to say that looseness in conversation, that commitment to the ethical word that I give, when I say this, that's what's going to happen. And you can count on that, right? I would even venture to say that we're all kind of in some sense of the world suffering because we're missing my word is my bond in some way or another.
Well, there's a wise man that once lived and is still living that said, "Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Anything more than this is from the evil one." And I think that we've lost sight of the power of your yes and the power of your no, and letting that be your bond. And that's one of those things that a lot of business owners, not that they struggle to say yes or struggle to say no, but struggle to say it at the right time, to choose when to say it at the right time. Because a lot of business owners say yes too much, right? And then they can't deliver, and they're afraid to say no.
Do you believe people still believe their word is their bond?
No, no. When you look at the statistics about, I mean, there's obviously exceptions, but the majority of people don't. And I'm not trying to disparage people. I'm not saying, hey, people suck. I'm not saying that, but the statistics show that I think I'm going to have to make up a little bit of statistics here, but when it comes to lying, we lie a lot. And we're talking like in a conversation, 3 to 5 times in a single conversation is how often the average person is lying. So you could be exaggerating or under exaggerating, and that's not your word being your bond. And so I don't want to be negative here about that, but there's something that's going on in our culture that is pushing us away from being honest and real. And I think some of that has to do with the Instagram world of this is who I want to be or who I think I am, and putting that on display instead of being the vulnerable self.
Well, I think that's a tough one, right? I mean, because You're right. I don't put my bad days on Facebook. I don't put my bad days on Instagram. I put the days when I'm sitting on vacation at some plush hotel having a perfect night with my wife. I don't tell her about the days we just cussed at each other in the car ride, or the days we were mad at each other because the dog peed in the carpet, or whose job was to take the dog out. And we don't talk about that stuff. It seems like and then what happens is I start to judge myself by your Facebook pictures,
Yep.
right? I start to judge myself, it leaves me feeling empty, right? It feels me feel like, what's wrong with me, right? Look at look at those guys, Kyle and his group. They're over there, they're having a grand old time. Why isn't my life like that? And I don't see the real parts, the real part of it. And then this becomes a little bit of a exaggeration, right? Which that is ultimately the exaggeration of it.
Yeah, I mean, what you don't know is that on Friday night, we got back from Mexico, got into a hotel in San Diego, and my daughter, my youngest, screamed at my wife and I for an hour and a half. Just screamed at us because she didn't want to go to bed. And she wanted to sleep by mom, not by dad. And she wanted to, whatever it was. It was an hour and a half. And what did I do? I did not react perfectly. Just like in all kinds of different contexts where we don't react perfectly. But that'll never get on the social media. But that's what people crave in business and in life. They crave realness. You were sharing with me a men's group that you met with last night, I think you said. And it was beautiful because it was real. And that's what people want when they interact with people, and when they interact with their boss, with the business owner. They want real, they want honesty and being genuine. And that's what creates that loyalty and willingness to go above and beyond. Right. But if you're not going to be real, it's hard to commit to someone that's not being real.
Right. You don't trust them. I don't trust you. I mean, I want to know that, yeah, you weren't perfect with your daughter yesterday. Right.
Yep.
Because I wasn't perfect with my daughter yesterday. We were in a cabin for the weekend, and it was cleanup time at the end of the day. And my daughter has a sneaker way of sneaking out and getting out and cleaning up. And I'm over there vacuuming and cleaning. I'm like, look, you little crapper, you had a beautiful weekend. You can't help make your bed or do something to help out around here. And all of a sudden, my not perfect me said some words that were not perfect. And
Right.
then I'm like, oh, all right. I got a little cleaning up to do. But when I see, when we talk about it with other men and can share that the real part of it, then I feel vulnerable. And when I'm in a room where people are vulnerable and can be straight about it. And look, my goal is to be a better man and kind of notice, all right, how did I get there? All right, Kyle, how did you get there? When you weren't perfect, how did you do that? And I love that when we get vulnerable,
Yep.
I can then trust that, right? There's something about that truth that feels right to me. And you can feel a room or even a space between two men or two people just tighten up, and the bond of that. And I think the same thing happens in business, right? I've learned that throughout this. Let's kind of transition over to our business worlds. And as you work with new entrepreneurs that are off to the new adventure, right? So you're out there starting your first new company, and you get engaged. They engage with you. Talk to me a little bit about that process, and how do you start to get them comfortable and get them vulnerable, and start to really hear them where they're really at.
Yeah, there's three great questions that you can ask, and they came from this mentoring program I was a part of for multiple years. In the program, the guys come in, they're off track in life and struggling, and fundamentally, we're asking them three questions. They're asking themselves three questions: where am I? Where do I want to go? And how am I going to get there? That's it. Those are the three questions. And then we frame it within 7 different contexts of, emotions, spiritual life, physical life, etc. In business, it's very similar. Where are you? Where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there, as it relates to your marketing, to your profit and loss statements, as it relates to your employees, as it relates to your training, as it relates to the people that you serve, so on and so forth. You're asking that question. And when you first start your business, if you don't have clarity around those three questions, then it's really difficult to develop a vision. And if you don't have a vision, then you don't have that light out in front that you can be following. I can't remember what it's called in the ocean. I don't know what it's called, that lighthouse. You don't have that lighthouse to look to that's that permanent fixture. But when you ask those three questions, then all of a sudden you're getting clarity, but you got to ask those questions consistently. And it's not a one-time ask that question, because the business evolves and those questions are asked. And ultimately, that's what my coaching is doing, is helping them answer those 3 fundamental questions.
That's awesome. Doing inventory of where I'm at, that is something that I would say most entrepreneurs cannot see, right? There's this built-in liar that I have that tells me where I'm at, it's where I'm supposed to be, that, I'm doing the best I can, I'm working hard. And a lot of times as an entrepreneur, I need outside help to do my inventory.
Yeah.
Right. In other words, if I knew how to do it, I would have done it. Right. Where I'm at is because I believe that's where I'm supposed to be. And I believe that's as hard as I can work. I believe those are the systems I need. But I start to believe myself and my own BS. Right. And my believing my own BS is trouble, because I got this guy, I call him Fred in my head. And Fred's kind of a jackass. Right. And he lies to me and tells me that these, I can eat like that, or I can talk like that, or I can be in business meetings this way. I can't see those behaviors because, right, Fred helps me lie to myself. But when I bring a coach in like you, someone who can really help me with inventory, right? Look at how I'm acting. What are my behaviors? What am I doing on a daily basis that is serving the company and not serving the company? I think there's a real gift in that. So I really talk about, how do you do that? How do you get to somebody and really help them see an inventory of what they're really doing?
Yeah. So I want to talk about Frank for a moment. So you said Fred. I think there's a Frank too.
Cool.
Frank is the other guy that says, you're not good enough. You don't know what you're doing. You're not qualified. The Fred is the prideful one, let's say. And the Frank is the really low confident guy. They're the imposter guy. And we all are on the spectrum somewhere in there. And hopefully we can arrive in the middle, which is in a little bit maybe lean towards Fred, where we're, have that extra confidence, because as business owners, we need to. But to help them take inventory, and not literally, but to help them take inventory, there's this phrase that I learned from a director of a nonprofit. I used to work that same program I mentioned before, and I walked into his office and I said, Christian, how come I can't connect with Jack? Jack was the president of the program. I'm like, I have all these great ideas, but he won't do anything with them. He won't even ask me about them or talk to me about them. And he pauses, he just looks at me and he says, I've been working with Jack for, I think at that time it was like 15 years. I've been working with Jack for 15 years. And what he needs and what you need to do is get facts and figures. And then he said, facts and figures set you free. And that stuck like glue to me. And I tell every single one of my clients that story and that phrase, facts and figures set you free. Because this is the way you take inventory in a business. You need to know the facts and figures about your business. And everybody knows that you need to know your profit and loss and those types of things. And yes, I'm referring to that, but I'm also referring to, you got sales this month. How exactly did you get those sales? What are the facts and figures behind those sales of what actions you took that you can control that got the results that you got or didn't get the results? And the more a business can do that, the more clear that first question becomes, or the answer to that first question becomes, which is, where am I? Right? So you place that question in every single category of your business. Where am I? And then you go, what are the facts and figures within this category of business? And then you have taken inventory on your business and you've answered that first question, which on the people side is that the B in blue, which is be self-aware, right? So now we're self-aware of what's going on in our business and what's going on in ourselves as leadership, because we've taken inventory and we know the facts and figures of our business. And if you're doing a great job, you know the facts and figures of yourself as a leader and what actions you are taking with numbers behind it, so you can back up those actions for the future.
So let's go through a little bit of facts and figures so that our audience can get, what do you mean by facts and figures?
Yeah. So I mean, when you close, what's your percentage of closing? How many people do you need to talk to get that meeting, right? So I need to talk to 20 people, let's say, to get 5 meetings. And how many of those 5 people do I close? Let's say I close 3. So I close 60%, but I need to talk to 20 people to get to my 5 to close the 3. So when you know that, now you know how many people you need to reach out to if you want to add 9 clients this month. It's actually that simple. But then if you dig in a little deeper, you go, okay, what did I do to get into those conversations with those people that led to the discovery call that then led to a new client? And if you get those facts and figures on the marketing front or sales front, now you have clarity. When it comes to your profit numbers, like what's going on behind those profit numbers, what actions are being taken by your team or yourself that's limiting the profit? Is there some automation you can have that you can put into place? There's an acronym that I learned, which is called EPAD. And EPAD is a great way to help you get behind the facts and figures. And it stands for eliminate, prioritize, automate, and delegate. You put those four together behind the information that you have, and then you can get more clarity on how to use those facts and figures.
That's awesome. So eliminate,
prioritize, automate, and delegate.
I love it. As you start to create these measurable, each one of these measurable scenarios, how do you set this up so you can scan them on a daily basis? How do you measure matrix on a regular basis? Because I think a lot of times I see people do it once, then you're like, oh, that's great, but you're looking to do this every day, right?
Yep, I do every day. If I wasn't on a podcast, on my second screen here would be my dashboard. And my dashboard is actually simply Google Sheets. And if you don't use Google, just use Excel. And I have 3 goals this quarter. I work on a quarterly basis for my goals, not a yearly, it's a quarterly. And right now I've got a goal related to my personal life. And then I've got a goal related to my business community that I'm building. And then I have a goal related to the masterminds that I'm building. And there's measures that show that are the actions that I need to take that I can 100% control that lead to the results that I want. And every day I'm entering in numbers there, and it gives me a percentage of success. And I'm trying to shoot for 80% or higher. And if I don't see an 80% at the end of the week, when I review on it on Saturday, I know that I need to change some things because I wasn't successful that week because I didn't hit at least 80. And I'm going for 100. And every day I'm looking at that dashboard, and there's various tabs on there on various facts and figures to help me know where I stand right this second, not a month ago, 3 months ago, a year ago. I want to know where I stand right this second. And that's where there's only one client I've ever worked with that has a system that's like that. All the other clients, I can't even tell you, dozens of clients, not a single one of them knew where they were that second. They could not tell me because they didn't have the facts and figures, and they weren't set free. So they were full of stress. They did not have peace of mind, and their time was chaos. And it is actually that simple.
I think that's literally the thing that I notice, that when I don't write and see the matrix, our brains kind of wobble, right? They kind of wobble back and forth. But when I see, all right, look, I'm supposed to make 20 calls today, right? Or when I go, I need to make 20 outbound calls to get 3 new appointments, to close 1 out of the 3 of them, right? I know that if I didn't make the 20 calls today, that's what I should be doing.
Yep.
Right. And then, because my entrepreneurial brain will make up all kinds of stuff to do. Right. You see it all the time. When you work with entrepreneurs, what's the biggest time sucker there is?
Email,
right? You get stuck in emails. You start surfing the net. You start, I need to go wash the dog bowls, everything other than my 20 calls for the day.
Right. Yep. It's so true. And the beauty is, once you've answered, where am I? Then you can move into, where do I want to go? And what's interesting here is you plug in new numbers, right? So that's all it is. You're plugging in new numbers and then you track it. But now it's about energy management. So a lot of people talk about time management, but it's not time management. We get to control time. Like, we actually have way more control over time than we realize. What people are fussing about when they're saying, oh, I'm stressed, or I'm too busy, or I'm busy, or whatever, what they're actually underlying that is they're not doing a good job of managing their energy. If they can manage their energy well, then how they use their time is far more productive and effective. And since they have the facts and figures about themselves and their business, then they know where to put their energy, or where to tell people to put their energy, because they should have their employees should also have dashboards. and you put that together, and now obviously you're going to be far more efficient, less stressed, more effective. And what does that all equal? Growth and more profitability.
So go back in there. So if I look at my dashboard, right, and I'm creating a dashboard that's got clarity of vision, right? So I know I need to do these. These are the items that I'm looking for. Talk to me a little bit more. So getting into the dashboard look. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to set myself up and my people up for success. What am I doing today to do that?
Yeah, first of all, you have to know what those most important goals are, because if you think about, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, leaders, whatever, we have what's called the whirlwind, which is credit to 4 disciplines of execution. It's called the whirlwind, and that's 80% of the work that you're getting done is the whirlwind. It's just the crap that needs to get done. And if you closed your eyes in your business, or if everything was just moving along, you weren't thinking about business, you would get that work done. We don't care about putting that on the dashboard. That's a waste of time. That's just going to get done, period, no matter what. It's the 20% that we put on the dashboard. And that 20% is the most important items. And usually it's 1 to 3 goals, rarely 3, but usually 1 to 2 goals that you put on your dashboard, and you track that very closely, because those are the real movers and shakers in your business. Right now, Anthony, if you thought about what needs to get done in your business, I bet you there's 2 goals. That one's probably financial, another one might be in another area, but those 2 goals could go up on a dashboard, or they already are. And those, if you knock those out of the park, you're going to have a great quarter. If you don't, you're going to have a normal quarter. But when you put them up on display and go, this is where I want to go, and focus 20% of your time on that, right? So let's say you work 50 hours in a week, 10 hours of your time needs to be focused on those 2 goals in a given week. Perfect. Now you're going to move the needle in a significant way in your business. And it's almost a guarantee, because you're modifying it in real time, so that when things don't work one day, the next day you fix it, and you continue to iterate in the dashboard and in the actions you take.
I get caught up in, for me as an entrepreneur, I notice I get caught up in, I get dazzled by my own BS. Right. Oh my God. I walk into the day, there's some forest fire going on with a project or somebody. And I jump into that and I pull the S out of my chest and I go, let me go save the day. And I jump into their business and I spend hours and hours of my day helping somebody, which feels like that's what I'm supposed to do. But the truth is, that's not on my matrix. That's on somebody else's matrix, right? That's on somebody else's list. And my job was to hire another leader for that group, or find ways to stop those fire drills from happening all day, right? What are the system, process, and procedures that we're not following? And I just notice that, right? So sometimes I think that's what you're talking about, right? When you're in there talking about, look, what's on my matrix to follow? What are my triggers? What are the things I should be doing today? Because I can walk in any day, and at any given time, there's a dozen things to have me meander off on.
Yeah, it's really easy to do that. One of the ways to address that, right? So if you have a lot of employees that come to you, or a lot of fires, I was talking to my client yesterday, and he runs a landscaping and handyman business. And he told me he gets between 70 and 100 calls a day. And so we talked about that, and we started coaching around that and coming up with ways for that to go away. One of the solutions was get an admin, maybe, buddy. Get someone that'll answer the calls for you. So he's working on that. But the other one was asking a 4-word question, because not everybody can get an admin right now. They might not be in a place to do that. But there is a 4-word question that you can ask, not yourself, but the person that's calling you, especially when it's an employee, or even if it's a customer. And that is, what do you think? Asking the person on the phone, the employee, the customer, project man, whatever, what do you think? And if you ask it with the right tone, the right attitude, and then you shut up and listen, you're going to solve a lot of problems. And then you're going to push the problem back onto them. The way to think about it is, people want to farm their thinking out to you. They don't want to do the thinking themselves. So they farm it out to you by giving you the problem. And then you're like, I'm brilliant. Let me pull out my ass, my Superman, and solve the problem for them. But instead you go, no, I don't have the tractor. I'm not going to till this land. You're going to do it. And you give them the keys by asking the question, what do you think? And then you turn their brain on. The key is for their brain, because most employees and even business owners never really turn on their brain when they're running their business. Ask that question, all of a sudden the ignition is turned over and your brain starts.
That's great, right? Getting them back to, you've got the solution, right? I mean, farming their thinking out to you, that's an easy way. And the truth is, there's a part of me that actually got off on that, right? I mean, there really is. When I look at myself as I've grown, or as when I work with leaders in companies I have, there's part of us that actually has a little bit of satisfaction when you come to me for help, right? And the truth, I believe that's our lower leader, right? That's a lower leader in me.
Yeah.
When I want to have, I kind of like, hey, let me show you how good I am. There's a little bit of my ego gets in there, and a little bit of that, and some of that stuff, yeah, I have to pay attention to, right? Because do I want to be a leader of leaders, or do I want to be a leader of followers, right?
Yep.
That's a tough one to transition.
Well, I was literally writing down the word ego as you said ego, because that's leading from ego. And the test you can put on yourself is if Susie or Joe or whoever got credit for the work that you did the work as the business owner, or you did the work as the coworker, and they got credit for it, is that going to bother you? And if it is, then you're not to the level you need to be as a leader. Because as leaders, we got to let go of that ego. If we're going to be true leaders, right? Let go of that ego and give credit, and not have to get credit actually, and let other people receive credit, even if you were the one that did the work primarily, right? And when you can do that, now you're really free to lead, and you're free to be able to communicate in a much more powerful way, because that Fred or that Frank has shut up in your head, and now you're present. Because I'm kind of bouncing around a little here, but that's one of the things that I've noticed about leaders is until they're present, they can't lead very well. And if you're listening to Fred or Frank, you're not present. You're thinking about the future, you're worried about the past, or you're stuck on something. But when you're present and in the moment and your ego is out of the way, now you can truly lead.
So let's go to this for a second, because this is something that I believe comes up all the time when we talk about developing the leader. And I want to bring you into that. I want to kind of get your opinion on how, when you talk about being conscious, or being aware, or being present, right? Having the ability to show up at the office and be ready to lead, and not drag all this other stuff into, dragging all this stuff into the meeting, or into my day, right? A lot of times, when I work with a leader, I notice that they're bringing drama to the game that doesn't belong in the office, or bringing things that's happening in the office that don't belong there, right? Doesn't allow me to be present, or doesn't allow them to be present, right? That stuff should be better taken before or after the day. That when I deal with it in the middle of the day, it doesn't allow me to be present to what's actually going here, and bring solutions that need to be brought to a day. So is that something you notice with leaders?
Yes. Yeah. It's difficult for leaders to be present. It's difficult because their mind is swimming with the whirlwind instead of focused on the top priorities. The whirlwind should be taking care of itself. Maybe you do some of it, or other people are, but it should be taking care of itself. But if you keep your brain in that's what's going on in your brain. It's a whirlwind. It's craziness. And then you bring that craziness to meetings and to conversations and to your customers, and they feel it. We're just a bundle of energy. And so when we bring that energy to those meetings and those experiences, they feel it, and it hurts your business, and it hurts you, and then it hurts your family, and then it's this cycle. Now, it's not this dire, dreadful cycle, but the nuances of it can be kind of painful, right? So my irritation at my daughter may be connected to some of my irritation in my business, right? But can my irritation at my daughter be because I'm triggering her, because I'm already irritated and frustrated, and then so she feels that, and then she plays off of that energy? Yes. In all those cases, yes, it can be any of those things. So how do you combat it, right? That's, I'll answer that question. How do you combat it? It's different for everybody, but I found two vital things you can do. One, you've got to be quiet. Like in conversations, you and I did the breathing thing beforehand, which was beautiful. Breathe, slow down. I'm a fast guy, and I think you are too, Anthony, but we got to slow down. And I often recommend that you give yourself a 30-second gap between changing hats. I liken it to a browser window. As leaders, every tab in a browser window is a different hat that we wear. And some leaders have 20 windows or 20 tabs open. What does that tab do to your computer? It requires energy from your computer. What does that tab do to your brain? It requires energy from your brain. So we've got to learn how to close those tabs between different hats that we're wearing, different experiences that we go into. So if you're talking to a customer and you're dealing with a customer situation, whether they're happy, sad, or indifferent, when you're done, take 10 seconds to take a breath, go to silence for a moment, and then go and have the conversation with the employee, or go have the sales conversation, or whatever you need to do. But those 30 seconds of silence, or just silence at any time in the morning, evening, and in the middle of your day, is what a lot of people don't do, because there's just so much noise in our lives, in our heads, but also literal physical noise. Second thing is journal. Just write your thoughts down on paper, or I type mine out. Type out your thoughts, because that slows you down and it makes you become present. It's really hard to journal and not be present. It's really hard to be silent and not be present. You put those two together, and now you don't bring that garbage to your workplace or your home. So those are two. I've got other ways, but those are two ways that are easy. They cost you nothing, but they're of infinite value.
I've noticed different leaders have different techniques for slowing them down. I used to laugh about the guy that when I was young, one of the first great people I learned from was this old Italian guy, right? He was down in South Florida, and I just started a painting company. And he schooled me, right? He got over on me a couple of times, but he knew how to work it. He'd been around the business for a long time. And when I was this young kid, I came excited in to paint this building. He had this beautiful house on the intercoastal on the beach in Florida, and it's a big, massive house. And I was one of the big contractors I was gonna get for painting a great house. And I was gonna put up my brochures, and look, I painted that house on A1A in Florida, and it was gonna be beautiful. And when I would sit and talk to the guy, he would talk like he had a real slow pace about him. And in fact, he had this funny thing he would do. And today I realized it was the way he was slowing down. He would talk and go, I thought he had a leak. I'm like the guy's got a leak. I'm talking to the old man. I'm like, the guy's got, if someone come fix him, he's got a leak to him. Anthony. I'm talking to the guy. And I'm like, all right. But today I recognize that he was thinking the whole time. And I'm the young guy, like, I can't wait to get a contract. This is going to be the biggest thing I ever had. I'm going to go, da, da, da. And he's just like, boom. And he just worked that. And he worked my excitement. And he just kept pausing, right? That ability to stay slow, stay present, watch what's happening, not reactive. He was thinking the entire time. And now there's a little bit of wisdom. I hope I don't end up as the old man who's, it's kind of funny to go out there and old man Celentano, beautiful old man, a beautiful guy. He was just a great guy. He's not here with us anymore, but he taught me some great lessons about the business world, and he just had a slow way of just being in the moment, slowing things down, maybe a little comical. And I think that each one of us as leaders have to find that in us, right? Having that pause, staying present, because I think, for me, I noticed that there's been a lot of times where I think I'm supposed to be the quick one. I'm supposed to have the answer. I'm supposed to have all the stuff right now. I'm supposed to be able to answer, like or they're going to think that I'm not smart enough, right? There's a part of me that slows, by slowing down, there's an ability to be a little bit more present, to be in the moment with them. And that's not a gift you learn until you cause some pain for ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. There's a quote by Martin Luther, and he says that I am so busy today. I says there's so much I need to get done that I must spend 3 hours in prayer. Now that is beautiful, right? Whatever your belief system is, the point, there's a spiritual point to that, but there's also the point of, man, if we really need to get things done, what's the best to do? Slow down, because what's the best tool that all of us business owners have, everyone in the world has, are unconscious minds. not our conscious minds, but our unconscious minds. That supercomputer, if you give it time to think and be quiet, that thing, you ask it good questions, that thing, that brain of ours will bring beautiful solutions, beautiful insights to us. But if we don't take the time to slow down, in my case, prayer is one of the ways I slow down, to pray, to meditate, to whatever it is for the individual, you're not going to access that supercomputer. It doesn't just flip on and feed you information, because the conscious mind wins. So you got to slow down. That's why when we're taking leaks or we're taking showers, we get these brilliant thoughts, right? Because it's quiet. Nobody's interrupting us. That's why brilliant insights come in those contexts. So can we create other like contexts? And that's where you're going to get your insights as business owners.
That's a beautiful thought right there. Finding those places to pause, right? And I would almost venture to say that the longer the pause, the better I'm doing, right? And that's not something that comes to us intuitively, right?
Yeah.
Oftentimes we think we're supposed to be the one who's got the quick answer. I'm supposed to know. The person with the quick answer seems to be the person that's got the most education, and sometimes it's really more about. In fact, all the time it's about finding that pause, being able to stand back in it, be present. All right. So as you start to work with leaders, and you've got the where am I at right now, right? Where do I want to be?
Yep. Where do I want to go?
Where I want to go. Now, what's the third one again?
How am I going to get there?
All right, now how am I get there? Let's talk about how am I going to get there?
Yeah. So the first two questions has a lot to do with the B in blue, which is be a self-aware leader. The next two questions have to do with the L, U, and E, which is lead with accountability, use a growth mindset, and empower others. Right. So if I'm going to get to where I want to go, I need to have really good accountability in my life.
So give me
because
that.
What's that?
Give me some more on that. Give me some more. What do you mean by more accountability in my life? Right. So not
Yeah.
in their life, not in, hey, telling employees, hey, you got to be here at 7:00 and be there at 7:00. More accountability in my life. Talk about that.
Correct. Yeah. So I love acronyms. I've already shared a few with you, EPAD, Blue, and now I'm going to share PASS, PASS. So I am someone that I'm pretty good with my word. I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty dang good with my word. And usually if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. I'm not fast at getting those things done, but they get done, right? I wanted to grow my business to 6 figures. I want to do X, Y, Z. That has happened. How did I do that? Well, I reverse engineered how I keep accountable. And the P in accountability PASS is passive accountability. Now, it's a funny word because you think, how can you have accountability that's passive? Anthony, what's a goal that you have right now in your life or your business?
To be 210 pounds.
To be okay, cool. So 210 pounds. How come?
Well, I feel like as a lighter body would be a healthier body. And I'm noticing that reaching down to tie my shoes has become the most difficult part of my day.
Okay. And you get there, what does that do for you?
I'm not sure yet, but I have a sense that lighter and healthier feels like both the why I'm carrying this much weight, the food that I'm eating, it's not the healthiest choices I'm making. That to have a long-term life without heart disease would require me getting to and creating a lifestyle that and the proof of that will be at the weight that I can measure.
Okay. So you get that lifestyle, you got a better weight, and what does that do for you?
What does that do for me? That it gets me feeling healthier and being a great example for my kids and family.
So that
we can live longer, healthier lives together.
Okay, cool. So now we got to it, right? So there's probably a little bit deeper we could go, but I don't want to get too picky here. So you're going to lose the weight so that you can live a longer, healthier life and enjoy your family more in the context of that. Right?
Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I will also say I also am tired of looking in the mirror and feeling body shame.
Yeah.
Right. There's some of that when I look in there, I'm like, I feel shameful. Like I want to feel proud of the body that I carry. Right. So there's a little bit in there.
So that's your why, right? Now we got to a why behind the goal. Here's the beauty of getting to a why. Now your unconscious mind knows exactly why you're trying to do this, and it goes to work. So that's part of the passive accountability, because now your unconscious mind is like, all right, let's go. Because it wants the hard crap. It wants the hard stuff. not that easy stuff your conscious mind, the Superman can solve. You want that deeper stuff, right? The second part of the passive is, now when you tell other people that's your goal, you tell your family that, you tell your friends that, you tell me that. Now I'm like, that's a good idea. I like that, right? Or they're excited about it because they benefit from it, or they are intrigued by it and they want to do it themselves. So now you've got this swath of people. Let's say you tell 30 people about this goal. 10% of them are going to be really, really engaged and really care. And they're going to follow up with you and say, hey, you told me about your weight loss goal and you want to go be able to do these things with your family. What's going on with that? And they're genuinely curious. They genuinely care. And I'm going to guess in those 15 guys you met with yesterday, there's a couple of them in there that would be curious enough to follow up with you. That keeps you accountable. So your unconscious mind does, and then those guys or gals keep you accountable. And they ask you like, oh yeah, I got to stay on top of this because people are saying, hey, is your word your bond? Okay, so that's passive accountability. Then active accountability, the A in pass, is where you take from those, let's say 3 people that followed up, you go, which one of these people do I want to really engage with on this? So you reach out to one of them and you say, hey, I've told you about this weight loss goal that I have. Would you be willing to connect with me and talk about your goal that you have? And we'll keep each other accountable to making sure that you fall through on yours and I fall through on mine, and we'll call each other out and support each other. You're going to get a yes, because they're already in support of you and they've got their own goals. And so you're going to get a yes. So that's active. Then you get to structures. We've already talked about the structures, which is that dashboard in its own way. But there's some even more basic things. Structures would be your to-do list and your calendar. So basically it's your plan. The calendar is the people side of your plan to make your goal happen. And then the to-do list is the things side of your plan to make the goal happen. You put that together, you created your plan, and those are the structures that you need to stay accountable to this particular goal. And then lastly, self accountability, because nobody else can keep you accountable, period. They cannot. They can remind you, they can serve as the check engine light in your car, but they cannot fix the check engine light. They only point it out to you, right? They could say, hey, your check engine light is on. Maybe you should do something about that. But they're not going to push you out of the vehicle and drive over to the mechanic shop, you know? So what is the metaphor there? There's a difference between committing to something and wanting to do something, right? Or saying you're going to, or deciding to do something. So have you ever ziplined or skydived or bungee jumped or anything like that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So skydived?
Skydive.
Okay. So you're in the plane and you're up there. You've decided you're going to jump out of the plane, right?
Yes.
But you're still in the plane. So
That's
you
right.
haven't jumped. Now, I don't know if you did it tandem or not, but let's say you did it tandem. Now you're strapped to the guy and the wind's slapping you on the cheek. Your face is doing this kind of thing. You're still have decided you're going to jump, but you're not committed. And then the light goes on and it's go time. And you as soon as your feet leave that plane, now you're committed and it's over. You cannot crawl back into that plane. So what I tell my clients is, how can you find that moment of decision where there's no turning back, where you lose gravity and you cannot turn back? And when you find that point, whatever that is for you in that goal, now you're committed and the whole pass is in place. But you got to be able to figure out what that point of no return is.
I think that's a great one, right? Being able to get to the point where you've made the jump and you're out there. You know, the a big one for me is around getting to the gym. Like once I've got my shorts on, I'm not going back to bed.
Right.
So it was like the hard part was getting from my bed to brush my teeth and put the shorts on. And then I just noticed that there was like this, you know, if I let my brain kick in, so I had to add in a YouTube video. There's a guy named Eddie Perino. He's got Perino. I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, but he's got these great these great videos that he does. And every morning I will go, and as soon as I get to the, I'll put the phone on, I turn on his video and I start to listen to that, and it kind of drowns out Fred. Right? Fred's like, well, I go back to bed. Oh, your wife's nice and warm. You go snuggle and you get back in there, and you don't need to work. You worked out every day. I'm on this 90 workouts in 90 days, trying to really turn on the workout. It's been this really invigorating way of living. And it's felt like, great, but it wasn't easy because I had a lot of, I would start it and stop it. I would start it and stop it. And And now it's just become, all right, I had to commit to every day, right? Because I'm not a guy who does, I don't do like partly okay. I got to do all or nothing. I'm not a like, well, we'll work out 4 days a week. Well, the problem is it this 4 days, is that 4 days? Working out every day became something that has radically changed my way of thinking, right? Because now there's no interpretation of what every day is. It's every day. And,
Right.
right. There, 4 days was like, well, I could skip, and all of a sudden it'd be, the end of the week would be there. Well, and I'm doing my best. I'm working hard. All those brain poisons that Fred puts up there, and there just wasn't a commitment to jumping out there. Now I'm working on the food in my mouth,
Yep.
and that's another one, right? Like I've got the workout jump. I've made that jump. Now I got to go work on the how do I start that? So kind of getting the app out, start to measure everything that goes in my mouth, start to track that. That's the kind of the next iteration of the setting up the system. What would you say, the structures for that, right? The structures to do that.
So, side note on the food thing, I used to be a personal trainer, ran a business briefly doing that. And I learned something not during that time, but learned it recently. This lady has an app and does really cool stuff with executives. But one of the things she has them do is take pictures of their food. Every single meal they eat or snack they have to take a picture and then they upload it to the app. That would be enough for me. That's all I would need. I don't need to upload it to an app even. I just need to take pictures of my food, not to post on Instagram like people that do that, whatever, but just to go, wow, did I really eat all those potato chips? Which also forces you to put it on display, right? And then you know how much you're actually eating because you can't take a picture of food you already ingested. So
it's tricky because I unconsciously eat.
yes,
On the way back from the cabin yesterday, I was taking potato chips and just not even noticing it. Just boom,
like in the vein.
yeah, like literally, it's like an unconscious way of going out there. I'm like, okay, I get home. I'm like, well, you knocked off this bag of potato chips, but you were hungry. You were driving. I guess you didn't stop for lunch. Okay, Fred kicks in and starts. Well, you're okay. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. The structure would have been not having chips in my car to begin with, right? That would have been one of the structures I put out there. But just noticing that there's in business and in life, there are all of these places that I've got to get conscious about building the structures you were talking about.
Yep.
Building those things so that I go back to my business day. Am I measure? I love when you say that, creating the matrix where I can measure my actual performance. I'm not lying about it. I can go look. Did you make 20 calls? 20
right.
calls is what you want to do. Well, you only made 17. Don't BS yourself. You need to make 20. You committed to 20. Do 20.
Yep.
Right. You follow up with that. How do you follow up? How do you follow up with the rest of that structure so that now how do you get those charts? You talked about doing it on Google Sheets. Let's talk a little bit about more structure because I kind of feel like I want them in front of me all day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I mean, it's literally the chart has to get a little bit granular here. The chart has here's the goal, and then here's the lead measures, which are the things that I can act on myself that I have 100% control over, and it's usually 3 to 5. And then on the right side is the week of the 12-week period, right? So week 1 is April 2nd or something, I think was the start of this quarter, April 9, April 16, so on and so forth. And underneath that are the measurables, the number of times I made the calls, the number of times I sent the messages, whatever. And then underneath that, I do a calculation of the percentage. And that's it. It's really simple, actually. The setup part takes a little while, but once it's dialed, then you've got it and you can track it. And then you nuance it too. I've added, the first iteration was very simple. Mine's more complicated now because I want more stats. Stats set me free. For example, I was thinking about, man, what's working? How am I earning money in my business? What's really working? And I was looking at my marketing numbers, how much money I've spent on marketing in my business. And I've spent a little bit, like 8% of my revenue has gone to marketing. And what does it return in revenue? Less than like 0.5%, not even 0.5%. Like the marketing money from spending on gurus or Facebook ads, worthless for my business. Might not be true for others, but for mine it is. And so that's why the facts and figures matter, right? Now I notice just stop. But then I went, well, what is working? And I was looking at my numbers of development on myself. I've spent roughly $18,000 on myself since I started the business. Personal development, coaching, training, courses, books, that kind of stuff. When I looked at the return from the revenue that I know is directly generated from me and me only, not from my website and all that stuff, because I've got those stats too. The return on money that I invest in myself is, for every dollar I invest in myself, it's $15.20 to the business. So what should I do? Invest more freaking money in myself and my development, because that's going to be a 15x return. If you don't have your stats, you can't figure that out. And that's the beauty of facts and figures. That's the beauty of knowing where you stand in the moment and then figuring out, okay, I stand here now. Where can I go?
I love facts and figures will set you free. I feel like that's as simple as you can get. And having a coach like you come in and give me the ability to see that, right? To not to BS myself. Talk a little bit about how you do a coaching session. So, like, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to get started. I call Kyle up, and by the way, in a second we're going to talk about how to get a hold of Kyle if you want to hire him to work with you and bring him in to support you. Because look, one of the best things I can tell any entrepreneur is the best I've ever done is work with a coach, right? Yep. Just like in relationships, the best I've ever done is work with a therapist, right? Having an outside person be able to really help guide me. Or bring in, today I have a team of people around about my life. I've got a doctor who works on me rigorously. She's a concierge doctor. I've got business coaches that work on me. I've got a physical coach that works on me. I've got a masseuse that helps regenerate my body. I need a team of people who are constantly helping this vehicle, Anthony, move forward. So, so talk to me. How do you start? And let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah. First of all, I think that if you're going to be a coach, you need to have coaches, period. So I've got that. I've got a physical coach, trainer. I've got a mentor that's a bit kind of a business coach. And then I have a regular coach that's more of the life/business side. So right now I have 3. Sometimes I have more, sometimes I have less. So I firmly believe that if you're going to do this craft, you need to be in the craft, number one. So I'm not talking this thing and not actually believing in it. Number 2, I think the most important coach for someone is someone that works on their mindset and their spiritual side of their life. If you do not have someone that can help you with your mindset and your spiritual side of your life, all the other coaches can't be near as effective. So that's why when I'm coaching my clients, I do mindset work and I do systems work. That's my work with my clients, mindset and systems in that order. And that's why Blue is what it is, right? Self-awareness, accountability, growth, empowerment. Those 4 pieces are what I do with my clients. A typical session is, what do they want to accomplish in this session? And I don't dictate what my clients want to accomplish. Up front, the very beginning of the relationship, we go, these are the big goals we want to make happen. That's the parameters, right? We've got this sand pit, this sand playground we're in, and we're going to build some castles. But they tell me what the sand pit is, and then we start to build those sand castles together because we're not sure what they're going to look like. And every coaching session is going to be different. And I'm the one that asks, what do you think? Right? What do you think or feel about this? What if this? I'm not the one that says, well, I think you should do X, Y, Z. I think if you did this, I think you should ask this question. No, that's not coaching. That's consulting, which is a different swath of work for businesses. And it's good to have consultants. But my job is to pull out the unconscious mind of my client and to solve future problems. If I'm helping them with their mindset, I'm solving future problems. If I'm helping them with their systems, I'm solving future problems. And I do that through the power of their mind, through the power of great questions, instead of through my all brilliant ego Superman wisdom. That ain't going to work, because my business is my business and it's not like anyone else's in the world. And your business is yours and it's not like anybody else's in the world. And you know it better than anybody else in the world. No matter how many years other people have been doing that business, no matter how many years the coach has been doing that business, they still don't know it as well as you do. So I want to draw that. And that's my work, is to draw that out and listen as deeply as I possibly can to the client, because then I catch those nuances that they're not catching.
I got to tell you, I think you're magical. All the time we spent together, all the work I've watched you do, You're a magician that people that you work on, the businesses that you grow. It's phenomenal to have you on. I'm Kyle Gillette. I am grateful for your time. I'm grateful for the work that you're doing. If our audience wants to get a hold of you, let's go through some statistics. Where to get a hold of you? What's the best thing to do to catch up with you?
Yep. Two things. One, if you want to be in my Blue Shirt Business community, look up Blue Shirt Business Community on Facebook. It's a free community with over 100 business owners in it that are interacting consistently. It's not one of those post your business and go away and hope people click. No. It's actual interactions. We weekly network on Thursdays. So there's lots of interaction there. And then number two, if you want to connect directly with me, go to my website. There's a Discover Call link, free call. Let's talk about how we can help you with your mindset, develop your business, your systems, that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Kyle Gillette, I am grateful. Folks, you make sure you got right here. I promise, go listen to his podcast, the Blue Shirt Leadership Podcast. It is a great podcast. I've listened to a bunch of episodes. It's well worth your time. It's real insightful. It's contagious. Kyle's got a great way about him, and take a second and really enjoy that podcast. Like and subscribe to both podcasts, because it means the world to me when you guys like and subscribe. We really get some feedback. If you've got any questions for myself or for Kyle, take a second and put that down below. And as always, we're so grateful that you've listened, and we're grateful for our audiences. And thanks for being here today, Kyle, and listeners.